Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Start Sit Edition Week 3, hosted by the NickelPressShow. This is our second week doing this episode, and I'm joined this week by, again, Mario Rotondi, part of our family over at the NickelPress, doing this every week with me. This week we have a special guest, Louis Sansovich, writes over at the Fantasy Authority, a guy I've corresponded a lot with over the past few months, especially with fantasy football. We're in a few leagues together, including a big money one that I'm going to win. But besides that...
Not with Dez. You're not in the one with Dez. That's how the money went off.
Yeah. I'm going to win them all. But, Louis, how are you tonight?
I'm good.
Good. You ready to talk some start sits, some fantasy football this week?
Definitely.
And Mario, of course, how are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me back, Doug. Lou, nice to have you on the show.
Appreciate it.
Nickel Press Nation, hope everybody's doing well out there. Hope you had a good week, too. Mine was kind of mediocre. So hopefully week 3 could be a little bit better. So we'll get right into it, I guess.
Yeah, it's crazy. So many things have happened so far in terms of injuries, slow starts, and just random people, sort of random fantasy, football players, just breaking out. It's crazy. So let's just dive in right to the past week. This past weekend, we saw a whole bunch of injuries to major players. I would think the most damning one, the one that hurt the most people, I would think, is Tony Romo suffered a fractured left collarbone on Sunday, and he's going to be out at least the next 8 weeks. He was put on the IR today, designated to return. Brandon Weeden is going to be replacing him, and that's now 2 offensive, superstars for Dallas. Dez Bryant also on the shelf with a broken bone in his foot. Who knows when he'll be back? And now Tony Romo. So Louis, I guess we'll jump right in with you. What do you make of all this? Tony Romo was a quarterback that people drafted in sort of the mid to late round as a, guy under the radar to grab as their, starting quarterback. What advice could you tell somebody about that owns Tony Romo? What to do? What can they do now?
Well, QB streaming, and there's always somebody that's going to have a good matchup that's going to put up decent numbers that'll get you by until. If you're going to burn that roster spot, if that's your decision, holding him on the bench, which I don't know if I 100% agree with, but he is, in my opinion, a QB1, low-end QB1. But there's always QB streaming you can go by, different options. There's guys out there that can get you through that time.
Yeah, no, we've seen some quarterbacks out there this season. So far, at least, it's only been 2 weeks. We've seen some quarterbacks that people really didn't think about that would actually be major producers. I know that a fellow Nickel Press guy, Tahal Bedek, was high on Tyrod Taylor when he was named the starting quarterback. And Tyrod Taylor's actually put up top 10 quarterback numbers in fantasy football. So I'd imagine he's a guy that some people would try to replace. Carson Palmer's putting up excellent numbers coming off a torn ACL. A lot of people targeted him as their number 2 quarterback. And now he's, producing top 5 numbers right now. And it's just rough. We also saw other QB injuries. But before we go on to those, I just want to ask real quick, Mario, with these injuries to Dez Bryant and now Tony Romo, you'd have to imagine with Brandon Weeden in there and now Matt Castle being acquired today by Buffalo, from Buffalo, I should say, you'd have to think that they're going to start running the ball more. To sort of pick up the slack. They were known as a passing team with DeMarco Murray being lost, and sort of you see this makeshift sort of unit of running backs. So do you think that any of these running backs get a boost now with Tony Romo being out, and presumably they're going to be a run-first team for the time being?
I think they don't really have any other choice. I think they're going to have to rely more on the running game. Also, Jason Witten was injured. I don't know if he's going to play this weekend, so that's another big blow. They might go to like a 2-headed attack with Dunbar and McFadden in the mix, but Randall's going to have to step up his game. And I don't really know if he can do it, but maybe if he gets some help with McFadden, if he can stay on the field, because he has an injury history, as we all know. but they're going to have to try to run the ball more. That's for sure. I don't really see any good things coming out of Dallas right now.
Yeah, no, it's really rough. You know, they've suffered a lot of major injuries. You know, before the season started, they lost Orlando Scandrick, who was their cornerstone cornerback that really helped solidify that pass defense. They lost Randy Gregory to a high ankle sprain. They lost Ronald Leary, might be back this week, who knows? Dez, and now Tony Romo. So it's hard to see Dallas as a favorite now for the time being to win the NFC East. But we're not going to talk about regular football. We talk about fantasy football here. So another quarterback injury I want to get into is Drew Brees. Now, Drew Brees suffered a shoulder injury over the weekend. Nobody knows what exactly it is. We've heard reports that he suffered a torn rotator cuff, a strained rotator cuff. Nobody knows. But he's never missed a regular season game in his career, at least with the Saints. Louis, do you think he really is at risk for missing a game with whatever is going on with his shoulder?
Yeah, I do. I'm in the New Orleans area, actually, and that's a lot of the talk right now going on.
Yeah, I would have to imagine that the Saints, they're scraping by right now, especially in the NFC South. But who knows? Who knows what his injury is and what's going to happen? They were struggling a little bit, especially on the defense, and losing the face of their team. It would be tough. Mario, do you think with Drew Brees potentially being on the shelf, and whoever knows, Luke McCown or Garrett Grayson even playing, who knows? Do you think Mark Ingram gets a boost here, at least this week, as they probably will try and rely more on their run game, regardless if Brees plays or not?
Yeah, it's a similar situation to Dallas. I mean, they're going to have to rely on him. Luckily, C.J. Spiller came back last week too, so maybe he can take some pressure off in the pass game. He's a good catcher out of the backfield. But it's kind of hard to rely on him too much, on Mark Ingram too much, considering that, if they just stack the box, it's not going to be easy to run. I mean, they don't really have a good backup option, like you were saying, at quarterback. So they're in major trouble too, and they haven't looked good with Drew Brees. So
yeah, they haven't.
It's not pretty over there right now. They talking about them, they smacked me out of my survivor pool this weekend. So thank you very much, New Orleans.
A lot of people.
It was a high percentage take. Right. So they were in trouble before. So this doesn't really help anybody's fantasy value, in my opinion. Especially Mark Ingram, even though he might get more touches, I just don't know if he's going to be able to do anything with the touches.
Yeah, you always have to worry about Drew Brees. He throws a lot. He has Brandon Cooks down there. We saw Brandon Coleman also starting to emerge a little bit. Even Willie Snead, who somehow got a touchdown last week, and now might have to worry about Drew Brees not playing for a little while. And really, that makes their offense extremely one-dimensional, as you have a major drop-off. So there's a lot of quarterback injuries, and some of the names like I mentioned, Tyrod Taylor, Carson Palmer. I'm trying to think of a few others. Help me out, guys. Help me out. Who else?
I like Marcus Mariota, to be honest with you. He's looking better and better.
Marcus Mariota. Definitely. He's put up, 6 touchdowns?
Yeah, no interceptions. Yeah. I didn't expect that, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. So luckily there's some backup-type quarterbacks that people didn't think about that are producing. So hopefully they're able to get those if they aren't already.
On Tyrod Taylor right now, Tyrod Taylor, I believe, is the 5th highest scoring quarterback as of right now, and is only owned in Yahoo leagues, like 16% of leagues.
Yeah,
that's crazy. He needs to be owned more.
He's available.
I watched that game very closely, that New England Buffalo game, being a New England fan, and I mean, for a real life quarterback, he's okay, but he's fantasy business, man.
Fantasy.
You got to get him on your team, especially if you lost Tony Romo or potentially Drew Brees for sure.
Yeah.
And another thing with Drew Brees,
have to think.
On the Drew Brees note, I'm all about buying goods cheap. Brandon Cooks, he's only accumulated 15 targets this year, and Drew Brees, I don't see him being out for an extended amount of time, and I still see Brandon Cooks as the focal point of the passing attack. So if you can get him for, he was in PPR leagues, he was a 3rd-round value coming out of every draft. If you can get him for an early 6th-round type guy, I think you come out on top in the end. Yeah,
definitely. There's a lot of fantasy players, a lot of fantasy athletes that have sort of gone off to slow starts. And that's sort of what I want to lead into a little bit here. Coming out of Thursday night's game, a lot of people started worrying, is C.J. Anderson a bust? Granted, we've seen Denver the past few seasons sort of been wishy-washy with their running backs. You always have one guy you predicted to be the guy, and then it's somebody else. 2 years ago we predicted to be Ronnie Hillman, and then Noshawn Moreno all of a sudden was a top 10 running back. Last year we saw Monte Ball be projected to be the top running back, in Denver and one of the top ones in fantasy football. Turns out he wasn't that good, at least with Denver, and he got released, and now it's C.J. Anderson. That's who picked up the slack last year. Now we're looking at, C.J. Anderson this year, and he struggled so far. I'll be the first to admit it. And the thing that people say, it's kind of crazy because they say that C.J. Anderson should be the second string, but to me, and if anybody follows me on Twitter, they know that I'm the biggest C.J. Anderson fan. That I think he'll be a fantasy MVP this season, and I still think he could be. But a lot of people are saying
he's another
Ronnie Hillman. Yeah, he's definitely a buy low. But Ronnie Hillman hasn't done that much either. Granted, he's done a little bit better, but that's not saying much. So
I'm going to take up Ronnie Hillman there though, just because his value is so low right now. He's only at Yahoo leagues again, only owned in 36% of leagues. If you pick him up and then he sits on your bench for 2 weeks and eventually does win that spot, he can become an every week RB1, and that's the kind of
we don't say things like that. No, we don't say things like that. Don't talk bad about C.J. Anderson.
Doug, if I may, I watched that game closely too, Thursday night game, because I picked Peyton Manning as my sit of the week. That offensive line is atrocious, and that's really the reason why they can't run the ball. If you look at it, they don't have a chance. It's just as bad as Philly's. DeMarco Murray can't get anywhere to run either. He got 3 guys on him before he even gets a chance to make a move. And the same thing's going on in Denver.
Explain to me what's happening in Philly?
I don't know. Chip Kelly's, I think he's psychotic. That's what I think. But they can't get anything right over there either. But just really going quickly back to Denver, even Peyton Manning, he had a good fantasy game. But if you watch that game closely, he should have been picked off at least 4 times. Kubiak's talking about how he likes to have his quarterback on the center, but he's going to have to put Manning back in the shotgun, so he's going to have to change his philosophy a little bit. So, you got a lot of bad things going on in Denver. It's not just that the players themselves are bad. It's the line. The defense is the only bright spot there. That's a ridiculous defense this year. Nobody's doing anything against it.
That defense is...
I thought they were going to be good, but that's even surprising for me. I don't think they're allowed a passing touchdown yet. So, that's the one bright spot. But they need to fix that line if they want to get their running backs going anywhere. So it's not really the player in particular, because C.J. Anderson ran the ball hard. He just had nowhere to go. Because I thought his toe injury was going to limit him. He looked good, though. But it's more that the fact that the line just is not opening up any holes for him. So.
And I think luckily fantasy owners are able to see, granted in fantasy, players don't always have to look good. It's just what they put up stat-wise.
Correct.
And Peyton Manning did throw 3 touchdowns. And then we saw, Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas have both put up wide receiver 1 numbers so far. So I think that's the one bright spot about this. I believe that C.J. Anderson's going to come around. He has 10 days to recover from his toe injury. I think that they're going to be strategizing more and more. That zone blocking scheme, I think, will come through in the end. They got players that are better for it. And I think that over time, if not already this week, we're going to see an improvement. I think they're going to have time to heal, to game plan, and sort of practice it. But that's just me. Moving on.
Another for C.J. Anderson, on the C.J. Anderson case, the first 2 weeks, they went against Baltimore and Kansas City. So that's 2 good defenses he was trying to run against with that atrocious line also.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. 2 tough defenses, 2 of the best defenses in the league, actually. So that's one thing that people don't often mention.
Exactly.
They're going up against Detroit this week, and I'll get into that later. But I want to move on. We can't talk too much about C.J. Anderson, despite, I want to. But we have to go into another running back who got injured. This actually happened not last night, but the night before. Eddie Lacy. Eddie Lacy left the game early. He hurt his ankle. He did not come back. I originally heard that it was a high ankle sprain. It's now being said it's not a high ankle sprain, and that he could be back this week. With that being said, Lou, do you think James Starks is a good ad this week? We'll go into our waiver wire piece a little bit here. Do you think James Starks is a guy to, a top guy to add this week?
If you think that he will help you this week in your lineup, just specifically for this week, yes, I would definitely add him. I mean, you add him with the intention. You know that you're going to use him for 1 week and 1 week only.
That's true. If Lacey doesn't play this week or he doesn't play a lot, he should be fine by the next week. Luckily, this isn't a concussion where he's had 2 in the first 2 seasons he's been here in the NFL. So lucky for that. But with that being said, I would think that James Starks, at least for this week, is a top running back ad this week. I'm a little bit of a hypocrite, and I'll explain why later. But Mario, name a guy that any position. Who is a guy you think is worth adding this week? Who could help you out? Someone that could concern flex consideration or something. Somebody you need to own on your bench this week.
I think an immediate impact play would be Devonta Freeman if he wasn't drafted in your league, because Coleman he broke his rib, so he's going to be out for a few weeks. So he's going to be an instant impact player. He'll play right away. But if I may, just one other player I really like, because I have him on all my teams, is Matt Jones. I think he showed this weekend what he's capable of if he gets more carries throughout the season. I think the dude's a beast. I mean, I know it was the preseason, but he averaged 7 yards a carry. So, and he showed you what he can do this Sunday. So I think going forward you're going to see more of a timeshare. So as a flex player, he's a guy you can get into your lineup too, I think. Starting this week, actually starting Thursday against the Giants, who they're just atrocious too. So, he's probably going to have a good game this week. So.
And despite their lackluster offense, especially with, Kirk Cousins at quarterback and Deshaun Jackson out, Alfred Morris actually attempted the most rushes in the first 2 weeks of the season. And I think Matt Jones only played 3 less snaps than Alfred Morris this past weekend. So it's definitely somebody I would want to have on my team. Another, Lou, I want to ask you about this guy. Another rookie running back who didn't immediately get starting time, but now is showing his skills and is now getting attention is David Johnson with Arizona.
Yep.
Is he a guy worth adding this week before, he gets hot? Do you think this is, somebody that's going to keep getting better, or is this just, we're just happy to see it for now, but it's going to regress later?
If you look at his stats, it's kind of ridiculous. And I still don't understand why he's not getting the ball more. Last week he had 5 carries for 42 yards and a touchdown. That's over 8 yards a carry. He had the punt return for a touchdown. And the week before that, he had 1 reception, just 1 touch the whole game, and took it 55 yards for a touchdown. He's got 3 touchdowns and 7 total touches.
It's crazy. I know.
Not in his hands, and he's only owned in 34% of Yahoo leagues. He's available, and he's becoming he's showing that he's the most talented back. And I'll be the first one to say I was not on the David Johnson train all season. I was staying away from him. I'm not going to say I was pro Andre Ellington, but you couldn't have convinced me that David Johnson was going to take that spot or compete for that spot right off the bat. And David Johnson proved me wrong. And, in my opinion, he's definitely someone to add. Andre Ellington is injury-prone and everything. I can see David Johnson, and it's going to be somewhat of a committee there, but I could see him taking away 13 touches a game as the season goes on. And what he's doing with his touches, he could be every week RB2.
If I could just add really quick, I agree with you 100%, Lou. I wasn't on the bandwagon with this guy either, but because they brought in Chris Johnson after all that, and then but a guy like Andre Ellington is showing his true colors. The guy's always hurt.
Exactly.
He's not really. He just can't stay on the field. And if this guy keeps showing this type of production, they're going to have to give him more touches. So I love this guy too. He's another great pickup this week.
He's earned his stripes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I want to point out one thing with it. A big free agent signing that Cardinals actually got over the offseason is actually supposed to be coming back this week. That's Mike Iupati, the guard from San Francisco, one of the top run blocking guards in the league. Also, Bobby Massey coming off a suspension. He was a tackle for them. I'm not sure if he's a starter, but he's certainly somebody that's going to help their team out. But Mike Iupati is supposed to be coming back. He had a knee surgery earlier in preseason, earlier in training camp, torn meniscus, but he's supposed to be coming back this week. And I think that boosts most definitely that run game for the Cardinals. Considering last season, that was one of the biggest issues with their offensive line. So I'm definitely all for David Johnson this week. I think his role is going to expand even when Andre Ellington comes back, and we could definitely see something that he eventually takes over. He's a bigger, stronger, better inside runner than Andre Ellington, and arguably he's shown better receiving and route running skills. So we'll see.
Yep.
So I want to get into, another sort of area where, we're looking at another rookie running back, I guess you could say. He vultured a touchdown over this weekend. We talked about the team a little bit earlier, but I want to ask real quick: is Charles Williams for real? I believe if I remember correctly, he stole a touchdown over this weekend from LaShawn McCoy. I don't know if it was a goal line carry, but he did get a touchdown over the weekend.
Yep.
Is he somebody that is this a situation when we saw LaShawn McCoy in Philadelphia with Chris Pope, sort of getting those goal line carries? Is he someone to, one, add, or is it two, worry about for LaShawn McCoy? I'll ask Mario. What about you?
Well, I'm a LaShawn McCoy owner, and I gladly scooped him up before this past week. He seems to be a small part of the offense right now. Like you said, he is getting touchdowns. He has won the first 2 weeks. I don't know if he's gonna be like more of the goal line back. We'll see going forward. But he's another guy who looks explosive when he touches the ball. And it could be a nice compliment to McCoy, who, I don't know if it was just a Philadelphia philosophy. They didn't want to give him the ball at the goal line. But if they're doing the same thing in Buffalo, he could be the touchdown vulture like you just mentioned, and then he'll have value right there. But definitely if you're a McCoy owner, you need to have this guy on your team.
Yeah, no, I would have to think that maybe he's not necessarily fantasy-worthy, but it's someone to keep an eye on, especially if Sean McCoy gets hurt again, or if we keep seeing him vulture touchdowns. I totally forgot about this guy, and I don't know how. Last night we saw T.Y. Hilton did play, but somebody else stole the show, even though the Colts did lose to the Jets. Dante Moncrief, I believe it was 8 catches or 8 targets for 130 yards and a touchdown, something like that. Somehow, even with T.Y. Hilton and Andre Johnson.
It was 8 targets, 7 receptions, 122 yards, and a touchdown.
Do you buy that? Even with T.Y. Hilton in there and Andre Johnson, do you buy that, Lou? Do you think Dante Moncrief is, even though the number 3 receiver, do you think he makes enough noise to be someone who can be fantasy relevant every week?
He's on. He is available in your league. I'm a Colts fan. But I'm a Colts fan. I've been a Colts fan my whole life. And last year I was on the – I didn't have him in any of my leagues. I didn't like him fantasy-wise. But watching the games, you could just tell that he was going to be big. He's got the most fantasy points for any – even the game before that, 6 receptions, 46 yards, and another touchdown on 11 targets. He's got 19 targets this year already.
So you're advising people to buy him, to get him while you still can?
Yes, I would pick him up. I'm not saying he's going to be an every week start, but I think the offense does pick up eventually. They played against the Bills and the Jets, who are 2 of the best defenses in the league. I think the offense does begin to click, and once the offense does click, I'm not saying he's going to keep up these numbers, 122 yards a game with averaging a touchdown a game, but I think he'll be a solid flex playing to match up.
Yeah, if I may add to that also, their schedule gets a lot easier, like Lou was just mentioning. They played their 2 hardest games, I think, this season. And I was reading somewhere, I don't have the stats, so I don't want to make anything up, but I think the Colts are like in the top 2 or 3 teams that run like 3 wide receivers out there. So he's going to have value, a lot of value, I think.
Yeah, you'd have to think, especially with Gore starting off to a slow start, another buy low guy, I think. They're going to rely more and more on their pass game, especially with their defense not really doing well. You saw Vontae Davis, really, one of their best, if not best, defensive players go down with a concussion. Who knows if he plays this week? I read something crazy. Their top 4 cornerbacks were out with injury at some point last night. It's ridiculous. So I really think that they're going to be down. Their defense is going to give up a lot of points. They're going to keep passing and passing. And yeah, I think Moncrief could add some value as a wide receiver 4. That especially if Andre Johnson has an injury where he's getting up there in age. T.Y. Hilton, who knows if he recovers fully from this knee injury. We know he wasn't 100% last night. It might take some time. But I want to. We haven't talked much about the tight end, so I got to give him some love. A guy who scored a touchdown in 2 straight games. Eric Ebron.
Oh, I got to eat my crow on this guy.
Yeah.
I was against him last week, but no, he's part of the plan, man. That's for sure.
Yeah. We saw him, last season, didn't do much. He was buried in the depth chart. Now he's getting a chance to play. He scored a touchdown in both games this season. Matthew Stafford is hurt, but it sounds like he's okay. He did lead practice today. And I don't know what to make of it. Matthew Stafford is struggling, and I'll get into that later. But Eric Ebron has, I think, gotten at least 60 or 50 yards each game and a touchdown. Lou, do you really think this is a year where he could make some noise as a low-end tight end 1, a guy that you could potentially start?
Yeah, low-end tight end 1, I think he ends up around that area, like the 9th to 12th tight end. I think not a touchdown a game again, but a low-end tight end 1 that you can feel confident in starting, yeah, I think he's there.
Mario, what say you?
I would have to agree. I mean, he had 10 targets this past week, a touchdown in each game. Like we were talking last week, just he wasn't playing over guys like Joseph Fourier, and I was just, I thought he had a mental problem, to be honest with you. I just thought he couldn't get it up in his head, but he seems to fix the problem. He's part of that offense now. He's catching that ball. So I would definitely, if you're in tight end trouble, that's the guy I would definitely go after.
So one guy I want to talk about real quick before we go into our start sits this week. It was announced today that Austin Severian-Jenkins suffered a shoulder injury during the game on Sunday. He is out the next 4 to 6 weeks. So obviously he will not be playing this week, next week, so on and so forth. He had a really good game his first game. I don't know how much of it you can contribute to garbage time. He did not have a very good game on Sunday, but who knows if the shoulder injury had anything to do with it. But now you see Jameis Winston down to 2 guys to really throw to. One of them is a guy who did not somehow get a catch this weekend. It made me very, very upset.
Very nice.
That made me very upset in 2 leagues.
Yeah, I think the player I own the most besides Chris Ivory in all my leagues is Mike Evans, and I have been extremely disappointed that he did not play last week, and he did play this week, and he somehow I thought he got injured again. I was seriously looking because he did not have a catch until in the third quarter. I see nothing there. So I'm thinking maybe he got hurt. No, he just has not gotten a catch, and Tampa Bay won. Tampa Bay won too.
Yeah.
So, Lou, is it time to be worried?
I really don't think it is. It's he didn't play in as many snaps as he usually will play in. I don't have the stat right on. I mean, I read it earlier. 44 of 70 snaps, something like that. And usually he's pretty much every down type guy. So that right there, his snap count shows me that even if he thinks he says he's 100%, that Lovey doesn't think he's 100%, and they're playing safe.
What about you, Mario? Is it somebody that you'd be worried about owning, or somebody you're trying to get rid of, or somebody you don't even trust starting right now?
Are we talking about Jenkins right now? Who are we talking about? I'm sorry.
No, we're talking about Mike Evans.
Oh, Mike Evans. Oh, no. This is a guy who definitely, if you can, especially buy low on him, I would try to scoop him up from an owner who's worried.
Yeah.
I think zero catches. Listen, maybe he was more of a decoy. Pulled the Calvin Johnson from last year, those 4 games where he just played decoy. This is what the NFL is about. They're not going to tell you either if the guys are hurt. Look at Alshon Jeffrey this week. He played week 1, all of a sudden he didn't play week 2. So, you don't know what's going to happen week to week in the NFL. It's a chess match. They're not going to show their hand. But I would definitely try to buy this guy if you can. There's got to be a panicking owner out there, and Scoop them up if you can.
I might be one of them. Who knows? So
I definitely
think
he rebounds this week.
Especially with Jenkins out, you would think he gets more targets.
Yeah, exactly. He should have more targets. He's another big body that they lose in Jenkins. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe the Texans last year gave up the most points to fantasy wide receivers. So that's just another thing. This should be a good week for him to be able to step back, get into his role, get into his groove, and then possibly produce those maybe low-end wide receiver 1 numbers for the rest of the year.
I really hope so. So we're going to get into our start sit segment. I'm trying to say 3 words at once. We'll sort of, if people at home don't know, we go over one player from each position: quarterback, wide receiver, running back, and tight end that we'd want to start this week and sit this week, and we explain why. So in case Lou is not 100% familiar on how we do it here, Mario, I'll go first.
Okay.
And you can go, but we'll go into our starts this time around. I'll go with the quarterback first. And it's a guy that we talked about earlier, somebody that, we didn't expect to put up numbers. That's Carson Palmer. Carson Palmer is coming off a terrific performance. He went 19 for 32, 307 yards, 3 touchdowns, all Larry Fitzgerald for some reason. 0 interceptions versus the Saints. Facing San Francisco last week, got burned for 350 yards and a touchdown by Big Ben. Like I said, I literally wrote down Larry Fitz back to his old days, ? Floyd is getting healthier. He hasn't done much yet, but once he does, he has a formidable 3 wide receiver set. John Brown has been consistent, and so far this year, the 49ers have given up the 11th most points to starting quarterbacks. So they're in the bottom 3 in terms of how efficient they are, in the top 3 in terms of points they're giving out. Lou, what about you this week? Who's a quarterback that you'd want to start this week, and explain why?
I went a little bit deeper. I went to Nick Foles, just because the situation we're in where Tony Romo just went down, Drew Brees just went down. I wanted someone that the people could look and try to stream somebody up. He's playing at home against Pittsburgh this week. I believe he's getting up the most points against quarterbacks right now. Their secondary has not shown up yet. Brady put up 288 yards, 4 touchdowns on him. I know Nick Foles isn't Brady, but Kaepernick put up 335 yards and a touchdown. They haven't had an interception yet this year. Kaepernick also put up 51 yards on the ground, but not saying Nick Foles is going to do any of that. But yeah, he can get out the pocket a little bit, but I just think he's a solid start this week. They might be put into a situation where it's a shootout, and they have to throw the ball. And against Pittsburgh secondary, I'd be happy throwing the ball.
Yeah, no, that's we've seen the Rams, obviously week 1 somehow, beat Seattle, and then maybe they could surprise. I mean, Nick Foles does better than we thought. Mario, what about you this week? Who's a guy that a quarterback that you'd want to start this week, and why?
I would definitely be starting Andy Dalton this week. I know he's playing a tough Baltimore D, but so far this season, he's 41 of 60, 5 touchdowns, no picks. His offensive line is playing great. He has not been sacked at all this season. He's only 1 or 2 quarterbacks, Carson Palmer being the other who hasn't been sacked. The weapons on that team, A.J. Green, Tyler Eifert, he's starting to look impressive. I really like Marvin Jones to eventually emerge as the number 2 over there. Gio Bernard's looking like he found what he lost last year. And last season versus Baltimore, he had 567 yards, only had 1 touchdown, but they won both of those games. And Baltimore coming off a game where they just got carved up by Oakland and Derek Carr. I like Andy Dalton this week.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that he hasn't been sacked at all this year, and Andy Dalton's actually put up decent numbers. Is he elite? Who knows?
I'm not saying Andy
No, he's not elite. He just needs that time. He needs the time to throw, and he'll find those guys. That's all it is.
Think about
that was a jab at his opponent this week.
2 years ago, he was a top 5 QB.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that way. I don't believe it.
He's got all his weapons back. Who did he have to throw to last year? He had nobody. Everybody was injured. Eifert was gone. AJ was gone, playing hurt. His number 1 receiver was Mohamed Sanu, who also led the league in drop rate.
I don't know. You think Andy Dalton, you think fantasy relevant? What? But no, good info there.
I'll see it.
Not being sacked at all, and he hasn't thrown a pick yet. So my starting running back this week, and I'm sure that everybody's been like, why? But it's the guy I love the most and have to defend the most. It's C.J. Anderson. I have to start C.J. Anderson this week, despite people being worried.
Can't let go.
I can't, and I know I normally wouldn't mention somebody that's drafted as a running back one, but a lot of people are concerned about him and want to bench him. So this is where I'm going to tell people start him this week, and I'll explain why. Yes, he did have 12 rushes for 27 yards and a catch for 2 yards against Kansas City, but he is facing Detroit this week, who gave up 134 yards rushing and 58 yards receiving to Adrian Peterson. Detroit has given up in the first 2 games of the season on average 178.5 all-purpose yards and given up 1.5 touchdowns. I believe I think all 3 of them are rushing touchdowns actually. And they're also without DeAndre Levy, who people don't really realize was arguably the most important, one of the most important players on that defense. A run stopping and a pass stopping linebacker who's out with his hip injury or ailment, who knows? But it's really affecting their game, and Detroit has not looked good on defense. They have given up the 10th most points to running backs so far this year, and I just think that C.J. Anderson's going to get healthier. They got a game plan better. They got more time, and C.J. Anderson's going to put a lot of fears to bed when he puts up a really good week. So call me crazy, but I got to go with it. Mario, we'll go with you first this time.
Okay.
You'll probably pick someone more sane. Who is your start running back this week?
I'm liking Latavius Murray versus Cleveland. So far, Cleveland, week 1 versus the Jets, gave up 154 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. Week 2 against the Titans, 172 yards but no touchdowns. But that ranks them dead last this year against the rush. I like the fact that Murray can catch the ball. So, and some new weapons over there like Amari Cooper and Crabtree should keep some defenses honest enough for Murray to do his thing. So I like Murray a lot this week.
Yeah, especially with Derek Carr in there, I think his value, as long as he's there, is going to maintain that running back 2 status. Lou, what about you?
Running back said Danny Woodhead, and not just this week. I really feel Danny Woodhead is an every week starter with Melvin Gordon and Danny Woodhead coming in pretty much every passing situation. Danny Woodhead coming in every red zone situation. He's has a big chance to score every single game, especially PPR leagues. He's reeling in tons of receptions.
He definitely is. Yeah, it's somebody that nobody expected him. I think I mentioned him last week as my must start, and he had 2 goal line touchdowns last week. Rushing, but Melvin Gordon had 70 over yards this past week. So hopefully we see sort of more of a committee. But Danny Woodhead, I think, like you said, is somebody that should be starting every week, whether it's standard or PPR, especially PPR.
Oh yeah.
My starting wide receiver this week is someone who played last night. No, not Dante Moncrief. It is Brandon Marshall. Brandon Marshall last night had 10 targets, 7 catches, 101 yards. And a touchdown against that god-awful Indianapolis defense. But he's facing Philly this week. And Philly gave up 4 catches, 84 yards, and a touchdown to, guess who? Terrence Williams, right? And who thinks Terrence Williams is going to be decent? So I don't know. You see Eric Decker, he was banged up, hurt his knee. Granted, it's only a sprained knee. He could play on Sunday. Who knows? But sort of the same injury that T.Y. Hilton had. Who knows? He's playing with a better quarterback. I don't think people realize that. I think I mentioned this earlier today. Ryan Fitzpatrick is a much better quarterback than Geno Smith, and it's not a knock on it. I think it's more of a knock on Geno Smith than a praise for Ryan Fitzpatrick. It's crazy to think that this all started because of Geno Smith not paying back $600. How it all started, it's crazy. But also, you've seen Byron Maxwell, the big free agent acquisition for the Philadelphia Eagles. He has not produced. He has not put up any sort of numbers that you would think are worthy of a guy being paid over $10 million a year and being the number one cornerback. He's been consistently burned, and I think Brandon Marshall burns him again this week. Lou, what about you? Who's your wide receiver this week?
What was me?
Yeah, I'm going to you this time. Change
All right,
bit.
yeah. Ironically, you just mentioned Terrence Williams. That's who my guy is. Going against Atlanta's defense, Atlanta's secondary. I know Brandon Whedon's coming in. They don't have Romo anymore, but Whedon still got the ball with Williams. Williams picked up a touchdown with Whedon in. This another situation similar to Pittsburgh. Atlanta's got a pretty decent offense besides their offensive line. Julio Jones has been putting up crazy numbers. Matt Ryan's been getting them the ball. If they can rack the score up, they might be put into a passing situation, especially if Jason Witten's not there this week. Williams already has 15 targets this year. He can see 11 targets this game. It wouldn't surprise me one bit.
Yeah, it's crazy. I read something that Jason Witten has 2 sprained ankles and a sprained knee. It's crazy to think that. And he still played, so it maybe, who knows. He might literally, by default, be the only guy you could throw to. But Mario, what about you? Who's your wide receiver this week that you'd tell people to start?
I'm going to go a little bit out there with this one, but I kind of like the Pierre Garçon playing against the Giants on Thursday night game. So far, week 1, Garçon has 8 targets, 6 receptions for 74 yards. Week 2, he had 7 targets, 6 receptions, but only 23 yards, but he did catch a touchdown. The Giants are last versus the pass and wide receivers. They're giving up 719 yards and 4 touchdowns. I could see that game going a little bit wacky, so I kind of see Garçon doing a little damage against the Giants. So that's my guy.
Yeah, somebody that hopefully you would think would do better. I never had a lot of confidence in him. You know, a couple seasons ago, we removed from a 100 reception season. Actually led the NFL in receptions, and he's sort of fallen off. But Deshaun Jackson being out, hopefully, can keep these numbers up for him. So I like that pick, actually. So actually, believe it or not, my pick for tight end this week, guy I picked last week, and Pierre Garçon's teammate, Jordan Reed. I'm picking Jordan Reed this week.
Uh-oh. My God.
But, yeah.
Don't worry, I had to go on the fly there with Garçon. I know. He wasn't I like Brandon Marshall myself, so it's not easy.
You know what? Great minds think alike, Lou.
That's right.
So
there you go.
6 targets.
Yeah, you're right.
6 targets, 6 receptions, 82 yards against St. Louis. Facing New York this week, like Mario mentioned, gave up 4 catches and 77 yards to Jacob Tamme. Jacob Tamme. But, yeah, Jacob Tamme. Deshaun Jackson's still out. The team runs a lot, like I mentioned, Alfred Morris leading the NFL in rushes. So it sort of opens up the pass game that nobody's going to know what to do. He's healthy. And a sort of underrated thing that people don't mention, John Beeson, their middle linebacker, he's hurt. And I don't think he played this weekend, and I don't think he'll play this on Thursday, especially on short rest. He's really the only notable linebacker there who, people see, tight ends get covered off by linebackers. And I think that just because of their depth, they're not going to be able to find anybody who can actually cover them. And also, it doesn't hurt that New York is giving up the 3rd most points to tight ends so far this year. So I really like Jordan Reed to get at least 5 catches, 70 yards, maybe even a touchdown, which, is fantasy gold for tight ends. Mario, I'm going to go back to you this time. I'm going to keep everybody on their toes. Who is your tight end this week? Who is the guy that you would tell people to start?
I'm starting Kyle Rudolph versus San Diego. It's more of a gut call. There's no real good stats I have for you, but because the Chargers pretty much defend the pass pretty well. But Teddy Bridgewater seems to really feel comfortable with Rudolph. So far this year, he has 14 targets, 10 catches, 83 yards, and a touchdown. So the volume's there, and I could see him scoring another touchdown this week.
Yeah, especially with Charles Johnson struggling so far.
Yeah, non-existent.
He was a guy I thought was going to be really good this season. And you read reports from beat writers saying that he is the real deal. What's going on with him? So who knows? But I did see that touchdown that he scored in week 2. He's a physical freak who, has struggled to stay healthy, but, he's in North Turner offense where He likes to throw to the tight end. We see, Mike Wallace there. Like I said, Charles Johnson struggling. AT is back, which opens up, the running game, which sort of gives, the element of surprise. I like that pick. I do like that pick, and I don't mind if it's a gut call. But Mario, you said that Jordan Reed is your guy, so anything I missed on that you would tell me why you picked him as well?
Oh no, Jordan Reed was my guy. That was
yeah. Mine. Yeah, but no, you mainly hit it all.
I'm sorry, Lou.
I think he's good. I think he's pretty solid this season in general. RG3, everything happened to him, and he was bad throwing to tight ends. He was good for Alfred Morris, but he was horrible for Jordan Reed and Niles Paul. Niles Paul goes down, and Jordan Reed's the only guy there if he can stay healthy. He's pretty solid tight end in fantasy line.
Yeah, no, I think seriously the only issue has been his ability to stay healthy. Exactly. You saw this major pass catching ability coming out of Florida, and when healthy, he's produced good numbers. So, especially with Niles Paul being out this season, no real threat behind him. I think Derek Carrier's their backup, who was, I don't even know who he is. I think he's from San Francisco. But, I like Reed this season. That was my biggest knock, was whether or not he would stay healthy. I think that's really the only knock right now, even with their bad quarterback play. But going into our sits now, we'll go back to the quarterback position. Somebody I mentioned earlier that I would get into. Matthew Stafford is my sit quarterback this week. He did have a decent game over the weekend. He threw 53 times, 32 for 53, 286 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick versus Minnesota. But he is facing, like we talked about, Denver this week. And Denver's defense is just phenomenal. That's the only reason they're staying in games right now, really. Get this. Over the course of the first 2 weeks, Denver has given up 191 yards of passing, 0 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. That's it. It's phenomenal numbers that quarterbacks have just struggled against this defense. I'm sorry. That's a lie. I was looking at the wrong number. They do have 308 yards this season, which is 154 yards passing. Yeah, 154 yards per game, 4 interceptions. They haven't given up a passing touchdown. You think that's crazy. And also, like I mentioned, Stafford is hurt. I think he had arm, ribs, and chest injury. So who knows how much that affects him. But a Denver defense that hasn't given up any touchdowns to quarterbacks, I got to sit Stafford this week. Lou, we'll go to you this time. Who's your sit quarterback?
I actually must have read your messages wrong when we were talking about this. I actually didn't prepare a sit, but I'll go along. I'll play along with it. This thing's fun. Let's see. Sit Tony Romo and Drew Brees. If you start them this week, you are bad.
Good call. Visionary.
Thank you. All right, let's say. I'm going to go with Colin Kaepernick. He's playing against a good defense. He just came up with a really good game. That happens a lot of times. Some quarterback hits a hot streak, and fantasy owners just fall all over him, and they want him to carry the team and all that. But this week against Arizona, I don't see Kaepernick doing anything. I'm doing much.
Yeah, no, you saw him put up a good game against Pittsburgh. Good pick on the fly. You saw him do good against Pittsburgh, but we talked about how their defense is struggling. So yeah, it's hard to see him going up and doing it, pretty well against a really good defense. Mario, what about you? Who's your sick quarterback this week?
Yeah, my sick QB is the guy who ruined my Week 2 dreams, Sam Bradford, going against the Jets. The Jets pretty much just shut down Andrew Luck. They're top 3 in overall defense this year. Like I said earlier, the Eagles' offensive line is non-existent. They can't protect Bradford, and they can't run the ball. And even when Bradford has a chance to throw, he can't hit his receivers. And that Jets D is strong from front to back, so he's not going to do much this week, in my opinion.
Yeah, just imagine when they're I can't remember. I think it's Sheldon Richardson's out right now, or Muhammad Wilkerson.
Right.
Is coming off suspension. When he comes back, you just have to think, wow, what more could this defense do? So that's a good pick this week. Bradford looked horrible last week, and Andrew Luck didn't do that well at all. So my sit running backs this week, I picked two that are from the same team. That's because we don't know who's going to play. I picked A-Lace team James Starks this week. So basically any Packers running back you have, don't start this week. They combined for 100 yards on the ground on 23 carries, 140 yards to be exact, so 140 yards on 23 carries. But they're going up against Kansas City, who only gave up 21 rushing attempts, 69 yards, and 0 touchdowns to C.J. Anderson and Ronnie Hillman last week. Lacey is hurt. He may not play, so in that case, James Starks would be in. They're down their starting right tackle. You didn't really see it in their game against Seattle, but they lost their right tackle for 6 weeks, who tore his meniscus in his knee. So he's not playing. And then Dontari Poe is actually back. A lot of people thought, who knows when he'll come back. He had July back surgery, and who knows, but he was back week 1. He's back week 2, and he'll be back week 3. And he's a really big guy in the center that just sort of hurts the run game. But they've also given up the fewest points to running backs in 2015 so far. So, don't start any of the Packers running backs. Mario, what about you? Who's a running back or a running back group, I guess you could say, that you would not want to start this week?
Yeah, I'm sitting Justin Forsett versus the Bengals. So far, the Bengals ranked 15 versus the run. They haven't allowed a touchdown on the ground. They're also ranked 9th against the pass, so they got a very strong defense overall. Forsett this year, 29 attempts, 111 yards, no touchdowns on the ground. He does have 8 catches, but only 25 yards and no touchdowns. Usually that's his strength, catching the ball. He hasn't really done much with his opportunities in the passing game. So if you could sit him, if you could afford to sit him, I would sit him this week.
Yeah, no, the Cincinnati has looked pretty darn good on defense. So I like that pick. Lou, do you have anybody this week? Were you able to scratch somebody together?
First off, on Forsett, I was so high on Forsett this whole offseason. I'm still high on him. I think he bounces back. Maybe not this week, but I still think in PPR, I think he still turns out as like a low-end RB1.
Mm-hmm.
But sit this week is Dion Lewis. He only had 13. He did awesome with his touches. He only had 13 touches last week. He's played really good for the last 2 weeks. First week, Blunt was suspended, obviously. Second week, what people don't realize, and if you watch the game, you probably realize, Tom Brady threw the ball 59 times. 59 times. That's a lot.
Love it.
So Dion Lewis is that passing down back, and Belichick knew. I feel like as soon as Rex Ryan said something about not game planning for Dion Lewis, Belichick had a light bulb go off. And
yeah,
I don't see him getting. He was in for 73. He was in for 73 out of 86 plays, and I see that number going less than 50. I mean, less than 50%, closer to 40%, 35%. Blunt's going to have his role back. Blunt is Belichick's guy. I think Blunt just overtakes the backfield in general.
Lou, I'm a Patriots fan. That was a great call. I agree with you 100%.
Well, thank you.
No, I think Blunt only had like 1 carry last week, and
their plan wasn't to run last week.
Yeah. But unfortunately, this is what happens when a bunch of us blabbermouth talk for so long. We are running out of time, so let's go. I'm going to say let's pick up the pace a little bit.
Okay.
I promise I won't talk as long. So my sit wide receiver this week is Keenan Allen. Last week against Cincinnati, 2 catches, 16 yards. After that huge offensive explosion in week 1, such a disappointment. Facing Minnesota, they did give up some decent numbers. 16 catches, 163 yards, and a touchdown to Megatron and Golden Tate. But when you break it down, it's a little over 10 yards a catch, which isn't that good, actually. But lots of mouths to feed. I literally wrote Malcolm Floyd had 4 targets, Stevie Johnson had 6, Woodhead had 6, all more or the same as Keenan Allen. So, and they've also given prepared fewest points to wide receivers this year in Minnesota. So I'm going to sit Keenan Allen this week. What about you, Lou? Who's your sit wide receiver this week?
I'm going to categorize him as a sit, not necessarily would possibly not sit him in an actual league just because he's a lot of teams wide receiver one, just number one wide receiver on the team. But I'm going with Jordan Matthews. He's probably going to have Dale Rivas following him around everywhere, so that's tough to overlook.
Yeah, no. When you talk about Darrell Rivas, you think shutdown cornerback. Jordan Matthews, I should say, didn't really do much till the fourth quarter anyway. And that was all garbage time. So, yeah, that concerns me as an owner. Mario, what about you? Who's your wide receiver this week that you want to sit?
Yeah, my guy is going to be no one's going to be able to sit this guy, but it's going to be Calvin Johnson versus Denver. Denver's D, like we said, has been on fire with the 4 picks and 6 sacks. Only 270 yards allowed in the passing game with no touchdowns, with Stafford being banged up. I know no one's going to be able to sit him, but I don't see him doing really much in this game.
Yeah, no, I thought about it, but then I would think that people are going to throw tomatoes at me and call me.
No, yeah, I know, especially after last week on the 17 targets, 10 catches, but that's not going to happen this week. So.
Yeah, no, I don't think it will either. That Denver defense is just too good. My sit tight end this week, and obviously people are going to say, what? But it's a serious thing. Jimmy Graham is who I want to sit this week. 2 targets, 1 catch.
Yeah, that was bad. He's mad. He's mad too.
He is mad. I read a report that he is very mad.
Yeah.
But he's facing Chicago this week. Chicago's only given up 4 catches, and, yeah, I'm reading this right, 32 yards against tight ends in the first 2 weeks. That's 2 catches, 16 yards per game. That's horrible. Only seen 10 targets all season, Jimmy Graham has. 7 catches, 62 yards, and a touchdown. And they are a run-heavy team, or they're going to become a run-heavy team, especially if Stafford's hurt. They have given up, by far, the fewest points to tight ends this year. So I would sit Jimmy Graham this week as they try to figure out what to do with them. Mario, who's your sit tight end this week?
Okay, I'm staying in that same game. I'm going to sit Martellus Bennett. Again, this is more of a gut call, but without Cutler and Clausen looks like Clausen, I guess. He's horrible. We don't know about Alshon Jeffrey's status. And I think Seattle's going to be looking for blood this game. They're not going 0-3, and they're going to do whatever they can to shut down, which probably will be their main weapon if Jeffrey sits. So I do not like me any Martellus Bennett this week.
Yeah, imagine if Seattle went down 0-3. Jeez.
Yeah, no.
I have to find that hard.
We have to call T-Hall and see if he's still breathing.
Yeah, I don't know if he is. I haven't talked to him today. Lou, who's your tight end? Who's the tight end that you would tell people to sit this week?
Yeah, I've got 2. I'm going to go both on the same team, Dwayne Allen and Colby Fleener. I think that Moncrief's stepping up how he's doing and everything. Last year you kind of seen Dwayne Allen and Colby Fleener kind of, in a sense, split that third option in the passing game. And now with Moncrief stepping up as big as he has, taking in 19 targets already, it's kind of like the tight ends are splitting like that 4th-ish option. And that from 3rd to 4th, that's a huge drop-off, especially when you're splitting it with another guy in the same position as you.
Yeah, I think I read something today, and tell me if I'm wrong. Colby Fleener's seen 1 target all year. I believe he's seen 1 target all year.
For you. I can look it up for you in 1 second. I'm really not
while
sure,
you
but
do that,
the games it wouldn't surprise me. Yep, 1 target, 1 reception, 5 yards.
Yeah, so while you do that, I got to plug some things in. As we heard the nice lady say, there are 90 seconds left in the show. I want to thank everybody for tuning in this week. It's been a blast. It's fun to do this every week with Mario, and it was great to have Lou this week. You can follow Lou on Twitter at fantasy_pro14. You can follow Mario on Twitter as well at Mario_Roto108. You can follow me on Twitter at BMoreNFL. You can follow the NickelPress at NickelPressShow on Twitter. You can follow the Fantasy Authority at what is the Fantasy Authority's Twitter handle?
Wow, top of my head, I can't remember. It's FF_Authority, I believe.
I believe it's actually FF Authority. I feel like we're so underprepared. So follow them. They're a good bunch of writers over there. I've talked to a bunch of them. But also tune into our shows on Sundays. They are, every Sunday from 11 to 1 Eastern Time, live on our YouTube channel. So feel free to tune into that on our YouTube channel. We have 15 seconds left, but I want to thank Lou for coming on tonight. It's been a blast. We're glad that he was able to make time to come on, and it was a pleasure. But everybody have a good week, good night, and good luck this week.